This morning, the Texas Agriculture Commissioner, Sid Miller, he watched our program last week and wanted to say something that other statewide leaders are not. Texas Democrats asking for a federal investigation, saying Republican moves to secure state elections might be violating federal law. State Senator Nathan Johnson fired up this morning. Dallas Councilman Adam Bazaldua defends council's decision, asking voters to invalidate charter amendments that a conservative group will have on the ballot. Former Texas Governor Rick Perry going to work for House Speaker Dade Phelan, just as another House Republican, David Cook from Mansfield, said he too will challenge Phelan for Speaker. And Tuesday night's presidential debate, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump face to face for the first time. The roundtable on what to watch for.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning, I'm Jason Whiteley. Let's get to it here with the top political headlines happening in Texas. A new staggering figure from the state Senate. It would cost $81 billion to completely eliminate property taxes here in Texas. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick asked senators to figure out how much it would cost to eliminate the taxes. The $81 billion figure, that's it there. It's almost half of the state budget, but that money would have to be made up elsewhere and would likely cause the sales taxes to double. The Texas Tribune with a revealing write-up here on this one. Another Texas Republican says he will run against Speaker Dade Phelan for the House speakership and for the gavel there in the House of Representatives. State Rep David Cook from Mansfield made his announcement the other day. He is a Republican, now the third Republican trying to unseat Phelan. Grassroots conservatives dislike Phelan, arguing he is not conservative enough. House members elect their speaker on the first day of the legislative session next January. And Texas Democrats say they worry that Republicans here in the state are violating voting rights, and they want the Department of Justice to investigate. Republican leaders bragged about purging the voter rolls of more than 1 million names. Attorney General Ken Paxton raided a Democrat's office in South Texas who's running for office. It's uncertain, though, exactly why right now. Republicans say they're trying to secure elections, but 12 Texas senators sent the DOJ a letter asking it to determine whether any of it might violate civil rights and voting rights of Texans. We begin this morning with the Texas Agriculture Commissioner, Sid Miller. He watched our program here last week and he reached out to me wanting to talk about it. One topic in particular, the impending shortage of water facing Texas. Sid Miller wants to sound the alarm this morning, and we want to know why more statewide leaders like him aren't talking about it. Commissioner, welcome to the program. Texas is fast losing this natural resource of water here. Are leaders in the state taking this seriously enough?
Well, I certainly am. I mean, it's been an issue for me for 10 years. We lose about a farm a week in Texas, but we're not running. We're 700 years before we run out of land. The limiting factor is water. We're out of water, especially in the Rio Grande Valley. But it's my view is we got to quit complaining and do something about it. We got to, pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and we've got to start doing one thing like off-channel storage. In high water events, that water just runs right out in the bay. We miss it. It goes right by us. We've got to start being smarter. We spend millions and millions of dollars on stormwater drainage, getting rid of stormwater. We need to capture that, do rainwater harvesting. Our water treatment water goes right into the creek, right out in the Gulf. We need to capture that and let my farmers irrigate with it.
What does that mean when I go to the grocery store? If Texas can't grow some citrus crops, if it can't grow tomatoes, are Texans paying more already because of this issue?
It's still, the prices are still pretty competitive, but you are paying more, and it is the added freight. It has to come from Mexico, Central, South America. That all adds cost. So that's all passed on, and that's why the cost of gas and groceries, you've seen the charts, how much groceries are up 20% to 40% every time you go to the grocery store, and that's why.
Put this in context for us. How serious is this situation for the state of Texas? Last week I called it an existential threat. Was that hyperbole?
No, I think it is a threat. People are not talking about it, but we need to get it on the radar. We're Texans. We can take care of ourselves. We've got to quit whining about Mexico not paying their water bill, and we got to do something about it ourselves.
Has partisan politics blinded leaders in this state, do you think, taking their attention off what we really should be doing, thinking about how to keep the state alive for the next century?
Well, I think we need to start talking about water. I mean, we're out of it. There is, we've got to have new sources. We've got to manage the resources we have.
Is it that serious? Then?
It is.
You said we're out of it. Is it that serious?
It is. You can't get a Pecos cantaloupe anymore. The whales are dry out there. They don't grow cantaloupes in Pecos anymore. Everybody used to love to eat Pecos cantaloupes. You can't find one anymore because the farmers are gone. There's no water. They had to leave. I'm making, my voice heard. Agriculture is the largest user of water in the state, so I think I have an obligation to protect it and make sure we use it wisely.
What's the timeline on this? Everyone I'm talking to says we should have been doing this 10 years ago. We've got to start tomorrow. We've got to start doing this immediately here.
Well, actually, we have a 50-year water plan, and it's a good plan. The problem is it's about 30 years old. We've got to go back in, redo that plan, kind of like the old NAFTA agreement. It's outdated. Our water plan's outdated. Our population has changed. Our needs have changed. So we've got to go back in, rework that 50-year water plan, get us a new water plan, figure out what it's going to take to get us through the next 50 years.
Commissioner, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's bring in the roundtable to talk about the politics of this. Bud Kennedy is here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I am Mitra with us from the Texas Tribune in Austin. And Abby Livingston back with us. She's a senior congressional reporter from Puck News. She is in New York City. Abby, good to see you again as well. Am I the only one here on the roundtable who's never had a Pecos cantaloupe?
Oh, I imagine. I've certainly
have you had them?
All my life I've had Pecos cantaloupes.
Well, let's...
I didn't know there weren't any this year, but if Sid says there's not, it's pretty serious.
He's talking to the farmers out there. Listen, guys, 2 Republicans 2 weeks in a row say Texas needs to take this seriously. We aren't hearing from most state leaders on this, Bud. Why not?
Well, I think state leaders don't want to talk about the expense to refurbish the infrastructure. The big need is to just restore the infrastructure statewide, and then you start getting into where's more water going to come from? Are we going to pipe it from the Gulf? What are we going to do? Sid Miller's commentary, which he didn't talk about, his commentary online, actually goes so far. This is really interesting. He talks about fracking water in West Texas and how they should use brackish water and try to recycle that instead of shooting the fracking water into the ground. This is one of the biggest uses of water in West Texas. The fact that he'd even go there is important.
Ian?
This is something that lawmakers did talk about in the last session too, and they designated, about $1 billion for water projects. And this goes to things like updating drinking water systems, and conservation projects. As kind of been mentioned here, the big thing here is a lot of the infrastructure, particularly in smaller rural towns, are really outdated and need a lot of work. And so, the challenge, of course, with dividing out this money is also making sure that it's going to places that have kind of the systems to support and implement updates. And so that's going to be a process as well.
And Abby, yeah, of course, the legislature did put some money aside, but it's going to need billions more to actually make an impact.
Well, what I just found so remarkable about that interview is the sense of urgency and seriousness that Sid Miller is trying to deliver to Texans. So often you see the leaders in Austin reach for culture wars, and this is, a strikingly bipartisan issue that affects all Texans, and you can tell he is very concerned about it.
Sounds good. It's a good point there, too. Back in just a moment with a lot more ahead, including this. When we come back this morning, State Senator Nathan Johnson among the Texas Democrats calling for a federal investigation over some recent Republican moves to secure the election. And Dallas Councilman Adam Basildua on a controversial decision at City Hall and questions he wants the police chief to answer. Inside Texas Politics, back in a moment. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. Democrats in the state Senate say they have seen enough. They watched Governor Abbott brag about wiping 1 million names off the voter rolls, and Attorney General Ken Paxton announced that he had raided Democrats' homes and businesses recently. State Senator Nathan Johnson, a Dallas Democrat, now among those asking the U.S. Department of Justice to open an investigation into all of it. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Jason. Great to be here.
Have the senators heard from the DOJ yet about the letter you sent?
We have not yet heard from the DOJ. We're hoping to very soon. We hope they take action as we requested.
Any indication that the DOJ might actually do this, because the time is ticking on this administration?
Yeah, I don't have any indication that they're going to do it. I don't have high hopes that they will. It's dramatic action. I think it's absolutely called for. There's 50 states. DOJ is pretty busy, but I remain hopeful that they will respond to our letter because we sent it in all seriousness.
And so Republicans say, listen, we're trying to secure the elections. That's the bottom line.
That's
here.
nonsense.
What do you think is going on?
I think they're trying to do two things. I think they're trying to do two things at once. They are simultaneously trying to rig the election in their favor and trying to.
How so?
Well, let me give the whole statement out. They're going to, because it's cool. It's really pretty ingenious what they're trying to do. Simultaneously rig the election so that they can win and delegitimize the vote, so that if they don't win, or if they lose by a narrow, or if they win by a narrow margin, they can blame someone else. They're actively discouraging voter participation. I find that anything but election integrity.
You're fired up about this, but a lot of these actions, I wouldn't say, are necessarily new to this election cycle.
Right now, less than 60 days before the election, suddenly we're taking these actions. Why is that? Why is that? Because they're trying to tell a story. They're trying to lie to the public that there's some rampant voter fraud going on, so that people will protest the election result when Trump loses, which could foment all kinds of unrest. They're also scaring people, and that gets base voters to the polls on the far right. I don't have any respect for these tactics whatsoever.
What if you don't hear back from the DOJ by November?
Well, we're on the news right now talking to people. I hope it motivates people to vote. If the DOJ doesn't get active by November, perhaps they'll get active in February, because this is a long game. I want legitimate elections, just like everybody else wants legitimate elections. What's happening right now, the tactics being employed by Paxton and Abbott right now, are delegitimizing our elections. They're undermining election integrity. And whether it gets investigated right now, or in 3 or 4 months, or 6 months, I want it to happen. Because in the end, I want people to understand what election integrity truly is. It's an informed electorate participating in the vote, not being scared away, not having people have no faith in the results of our elections, which have been confirmed time and time and time again, audit after audit, to be high quality, high integrity, valid elections.
Senator, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Now to Dallas City Hall, where you might have heard about a conservative group called Dallas Hero that petitioned to get 3 items on the November ballot that they say was going to put power back in the hands of the people. But a concerned Dallas City Council has created 3 of its own ballot measures that would invalidate these conservative ones if voters approve them. This morning, Councilman Adam Basildua defends the decision to do just that. Councilman, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Why create your own amendments to void out these Dallas Hero amendments? Why not just let the old-fashioned ballot box effort take hold here?
Sure. I don't necessarily think that they were meant to undo anyone's work. I think that more than anything, there was the ability to clarify, and so I would consider them to be clarifying amendments more than anything. But city government is complex, and the average voter, especially the average November election voter, may see things on the surface in a different way than they would if they were to be given extra context. So I believe that the clarifying amendments provide some extra context.
These 3 charter amendments from Dallas Hero say that the city will hire more police officers, pay more cops more out of the gate here, make the city manager's salary tied to performance-based pay, and then let citizens sue city officials. If that were to pass, if voters said yes in Dallas, what would that do to the city?
Well, at first, I think that it'd have a long battle in court if it does pass.
The city would sue over this?
Oh, 100%. As long as I'm in this seat, that's what I'd be pushing for. there's a level of unconstitutionality to wanting to encourage voters to sue the city if, in my opinion, to be very ambiguous language on not adhering to the charter. Just as you mentioned in the first question, I think the democratic way to handle this is hearing from the voters. The voters have put in a governing body, which I'm fortunate enough to sit on, and the large responsibility of the city council is to manage our executive, our city manager. It also should not be something that dilutes voters' voices, because if voters clearly have elected the body to do this work by taking a small sample size in what they've suggested to be the tell-all, you're essentially saying that the at-large votes did not matter.
Are these Dallas Hero amendments an end run around city council, around voters' choices then?
I think for many reasons that there is a political agenda behind what it is that they're doing.
What is that agenda?
I think that it's more about a voter turnout. I think what we've seen in the past, especially when there's close marginal races, that the Republican Party down at the state legislature have brought in ballot measures, have brought in constitutional amendments. And if there isn't enough of a reason to ignite who you believe to be your base in that election cycle, I think that that's really what this is an attempt to do.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you expect these Dallas hero amendments are going to delay the search for a city manager in this city?
I think that we're going to watch closely to see if there seems to be an impact on getting people interested. And
so if people don't apply for it because they're afraid they'll be on performance-based pay, then
correct.
Dallas might be in a situation, you think?
And the consulting firm, I believe, is charged with finding that out and making sure that we know what the implications are. And if we need to make sure that no decision is made until after we see what the ballot says on November 5th, and that's what we'll do.
So at the end of the day, this is going to push the decision on when a new city manager is hired in Dallas.
Well, I think that, to be fiscally responsible and prudent for the residents who voted us in, it would make most sense for us to. I don't think that we should make any knee-jerk decisions that will have to be undone, knowing that there are some outstanding decisions to be made from the voters.
Another charter amendment decriminalizes small amounts of marijuana, as has been reported. The police chief here, Eddie Garcia, opposes this. Where do you stand on that proposal?
I still question how genuine that opposition is. Just 2 years ago, I sat in front of the chief, and one of the first general order changes that he made was to decriminalize 2 ounces.
So what's this about then?
Well, this is actually decriminalizing 4 ounces.
Yeah, but what's it about with the chief?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the chief that. And I tried to ask him that on record because I'm a little confused on the fact that we heard a whole presentation on why there's a difference in correlation and causation. And there was some strong testimony from our new chief at the time who had 2 decades of law enforcement experience that said that he did not see a nexus in marijuana use and violent crime specifically. We've got a huge responsibility to look at providing more for our law enforcement, and that's also indirectly, not just directly. And this black market that exists for this substance is definitely hurting law enforcement more than helping.
Councilman, thank you for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason.
The roundtable is ready when we come back. All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Bud, Ian, and Abby all back with us here. Bud, let's start with you. Governor Rick Perry teaming up with Speaker Phelan. That was a surprise to me, and he's adding to his roster here. This is sending a message to Dan Patrick.
Well, it is, but Rick Perry has been campaigning for more establishment Republicans, people that he's worked with all along. And so it's an indicator that Speaker Phelan is reaching to a lot of the business crowd that's always been on the side of getting something done in the House. You got to remember, too, the last time Rick Perry laid I think it was a budget before the House, they rejected it 150 to nothing. Even the House member who laid it out voted against it.
Wow. Ian?
I mean, Rick Perry is someone who knows kind of the ins and outs of the legislature, starting in the House, and then, of course, as Lieutenant Governor, and of course as Governor, he's got great relationships, and he's going to be, someone who really will help Dade Phelan out in terms of that, and also it's just going to help him kind of navigate a lot of the relationship building and kind of lobbying too. You can see also with Mike Toomey that Dade Phelan is making moves to kind of strengthen his position.
And it is strengthening his position here, Abby. Is that what this is about? Is it about strengthening his position to try to fend off some of the conflict he had with the Senate last session?
Oh, I think so, exactly. And, Governor Perry was in office for a long time. And just like Bud and Ian said, he's got all these relationships, and he's also got really strong political instincts. This is a guy who's been in Texas politics since the 80s, and it just seems like a pretty good friend to have on your side.
And let me ask you, too, the speaker's race does keep getting more interesting now, too, with David Cook, the former mayor of Mansfield, now in the state house. He announced that he is going to be running for the gavel as well, the third Republican. What do you make of this?
Again, this is what Cook said in kind of his announcement was, again, he was repeating the aspect of committee chairs and not allowing any Democratic committee chairs, as well as communication from House leadership to the caucus. This is just, again, like, this is people see there's an opportunity here. It all comes down to kind of how strong Dade Phelan can lobby folks to join his side. It's going to be an interesting thing because this is now a 4-person kind of battle. It could, there could be more additions here too. There's time.
Turf wars on the right. Bud, let's talk about Tuesday night, the first time we're going to see Kamala Harris and Donald Trump face to face. What are you watching for?
Well, one thing I'm watching, of course, is what the ratings will be, because the ratings for all the speeches convention, almost all the events are down about a third from Donald Trump's other campaigns. So let's see how many people are watching. I'm watching to see whether Donald Trump maintains any sort of demeanor, or whether he has a message and a plan, or goes into name calling. And I'm looking to see whether she has a plan, and whether she raises the school shooting in Georgia and points out he was president for 4 years. He tried to do something and have red flag laws and backed down.
And Abby, it seems to me, and it feels like to me, that Kamala Harris has more writing on this than Trump does. People know who Trump is.
Yes and no. I think this is an absolute introduction for her to the American public that's unscripted. There was the CNN interview, but most Americans don't know her very well. So this will be a big first impression. But with Donald Trump, as much as we know him, I think the big thing people are watching for is not what he does, or it's what he's going to say. And he has been more and more erratic on the campaign trail. And so the suspense around this debate in national politics is unlike anything I have ever seen. This is one of the most anticipated events of my career, and it's going to be fascinating.
And suspense is a good way to describe it, Ian.
Yes, indeed. Expensive. And, you see the fundraising picking up here, too, particularly on the Harris side of the campaign. Look, it's going to be an interesting thing to kind of see the mix of policy discussion and personal attacks, and how that mixes. You got the prosecutor who's going to be prosecuting a case against Trump, and you've got the former president who's going to be making his own case and trying to tie Kamala Harris to the Biden administration, and his criticism of that administration. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they kind of stick out, how they define themselves and their opponents.
Jason, this looks like their last debate. No matter what, it looks like Trump has the last word in the debate. This looks like it'll be his last appearance on a debate stage, win or lose.
Guys, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching as well. We're back next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics. Hope to see you then.